Welcome to Generic Totally Not Mind Control, a supermarket-style jump by Burkus. In this jump, you are in a setting where, despite the sarcastic-sounding name, the purpose of the jump is to get powers that both immunize you to mind control and allow you to effectively figure out how people work without actually using mind control on them. I hope that you guys are having a totally wonderful morning so far. I'm so excited for this week's Luciano the Jumper Jump video. As you guys know from last week's video and also from stuff that I've said, we are now beginning to change things up slightly. On Mondays, there will be build videos, and on Tuesdays, there will be story time videos, so that way we can focus on making these videos a little bit more efficient and also still give Luciano the Jumper important and valuable time to do important jump stuff, and also so that way we can experience Luciano the Jumper's story in videos that are focused on the story and on showing the effects of perks. Last week's storytime video revealed that we are changing things up in an important but subtle way by making it so that Luciano the Jumper has access to the bank supplement and has access to an uncapped version of the bank supplement through the usage of what I have called a creative mode token, which is a homebrew reward that I came up with, which was a way to give jumpers access to slightly more powerful homebrewed builds. And I decided to invest it in the bank supplement rather than in a jump, because by investing it in the bank supplement, I still make it so that Luciano has to work for a lot of important stuff, but also so that Luciano has the ability to begin to go to more dangerous settings that are choice point sinks and that would normally be difficult to get the strongest possible builds out of, while still incentivizing our favorite jumper to go into less dangerous settings and adventure in them, so that way they could put some points in the bank and allow those points to accrue interest. In case you don't remember, we had a rule where moving forward there would be 1,500 points at the start of the next couple of jumps. This is a supermarket style jump, so there's also tokens which allow you to get things effectively for free in exchange for not using points. So we are going to be moving forward into this. We are going to be choosing our location as number 1. We're going to be starting off in Seattle because this jump is going to be crossovered with Chronicle. The settings will fuse into one continuous setting. There are no backgrounds here, so stuff like that. Age and sex, Luciano is going to be 17 because they are going to be going to high school at the start of this jump. And their sex is going to be male, but their gender is agender. We've already talked about all of this in the past. So our first perk, we are going to be grabbing 2 from the first page, and we are not going to be using any of our tokens right away. We are going to be grabbing Remember the Good Times and Walking the Line. As an important thing to remember, we effectively have 1,900 points at the start of this, so I simply want us to keep that in mind. Remember the Good Times makes it so that people have a flashback montage to all the good times you've had together with them before they knowingly or unknowingly take an action that will harm you. That is something that will make it so that people are a little bit more hesitant to get into fights with our favorite adventure, and Walking the Line makes it so that Luciano will instinctively understand where people's loyalties lie. We are going to be moving forward. We are going to be grabbing several different perks from this page. I have actually had to start this video over because it was a little bit difficult for me to make sure that I was still in my budget, because there's actually 2 important items that I want to grab from this jump, one of which is incredibly important, and there's several important perks here that will make it possible for us to have a significantly powerful build in Chronicle. So this is definitely going to be a tightrope of walking and getting everything that I want to get. That said, we still have 1,300 points and all 4 of our tokens. We are going to be grabbing Loyalty. We are going to be grabbing Negativity Sense, which is another 2. It doesn't really matter if we use points or tokens. That said, so far we're still using points. We are also going to be grabbing Helping Hands. Before we move any further, Loyalty makes it so you know how loyal anyone is at any moment to anyone. You can bring up a list of contributing factors that will affect someone's loyalty to another person. Negativity Sense makes it so that you can sense negative emotions, and focusing on them will tell you their source and what's causing them. Helping Hands, which is going to be the next perk that we grab, is going to make it so that you know who is in most need of charity and help within a 20-mile radius. Passive Renewal, which is another perk we are going to grab, and yes, that does mean that we've already grabbed 6 perks. Woof, there's a lot of really good stuff here. Is a healing perk. This is one of the most significant perks that Luciano the Jumper is going to be grabbing in this particular video, in addition to the free powers perk from the Chronicle jump, because this makes it so that Luciano can do something that they have never been able to do up until now: supernaturally heal someone. This is an incredibly significant thing, especially as it relates to going into Chronicle and addressing one of the central causes of the conflict of Chronicle. It is very powerful. That means that we've already grabbed 4 perks from this page. Yeah, I do think that we are actually going to be going ahead and grabbing another 2 as well. We are going to be grabbing Empathy Powers and then Their Way Out, which are going to be the last 2 that we grab from this page, but that does make it so that we have a total of 8 so far. Empathy Powers makes it so that you have the ability to experience the emotions and sensations that other people feel, and the ability to share your own feelings and sensations with them. You can heal people another way through this, by taking their pain and dragging it into yourself. And also Their Way Out makes it so that you are able to help people, and makes it so that fate is arranging meetings between you and people who desperately need help. Both of those are important. Their Way Out is a perk that makes it so that Luciano is effectively guaranteed to be dragged into certain types of conflicts, at the very least the ones that they like. I think that is very important. It's definitely something that is going to be affecting their build in the future. So that said, we are going to be moving on. We are on another page with several important perks. We are going to be grabbing 2 of them: State Refresh and Full Immunity. We are going to go ahead, and by the way, the reason I'm talking about this in 2s is that it is easier for me to keep track of the total points. We are now down to 1,900 points, or no, we're down to 900 points. And we are going to be doing a drawback of some sort. I am going to be talking about the drawback that we're going to be taking at the end of this section of the video. I might actually do 2 or more drawbacks, although I don't think I'm going to be doing that many. I'm not sure how many points each drawback offers off the top of my head. I know that with Burkus jumps, Burkus being the jump maker of this particular jump, usually drawbacks are worth 200 points, which is very good. I'm hoping that that's the case, because we might actually need that many total points to be able to get all of the really important stuff that we need. Okay, so State Refresh. Your mind as well as mental and emotional state passively refresh themselves every 5 seconds. You can share this effect while you're in contact. It means that you'll break out of any control effect, and it'll need to be reapplied constantly to do anything meaningful to you. For the record, you can do a lot to someone mind controlling them for 5 seconds, especially if they are a powered being. However, this is still an incredible perk. The reason we are grabbing both this and Full Immunity is that State Refresh is a shareable ability, in the sense that if you find someone being mind controlled or in some sort of unnatural altered state, you can touch them and you can heal them. It is worth noting that one of the healing abilities from earlier actually would do the same thing over enough time. However, this is a nearly instant usage of this ability, and being able to share it is incredibly important for a drawback that we're going to be dealing with when we are over in the Chronicle section of the build slash throughout Luciano the Jumper's entire experience here. Full immunity grants fiat-backed immunity to anything that alters your mental state or behavior. This means that Luciano is completely immune to mind control, which is also going to be extremely important. I am strongly fond of both of these perks. There's a number of other perks that I would love to get from this page. That said, I am going to be focusing on some more important ones. I am going to be grabbing Intense Reader and Advanced Danger Sense. That means that we are now up to 1,200 total points used. We still have effectively 700, but Intense Reader makes it so that you can sense other people's intentions and know if they mean ill intent or not. You can also tell if they're being guided to do something by someone who has negative intentions, and Advanced Danger Sense makes it so that you have a precognitive danger sense that warns you of a threat to anyone you care for fast enough to do something about it, which in Luciano's case does not have to be very fast, because Luciano has super speed, and as a result of perks that they selected from generic werewolf, they are actually able to use their super speed all the time. As a reminder, I had a personal rule where if you get a perk that is seemingly tied to an alt form, you can only use that perk while in that alt form. However, there is a perk in generic werewolf that allows us to supersede that status condition. That said, these are the only two we're going to be grabbing from here. Thank goodness. We are going to be grabbing the Soulmate Ritual, which allows for the creation of soulmates by taking a small sliver of both participants' souls and then grafting that sliver onto the other person's souls. This allows for a number of benefits. And also, we are going to be grabbing a Perfect 10 for Anyone, which is going to take us over to a total of 14 perks chosen so far in this setting. Woof. This makes it so that you can transform into a form others would find most attractive. It doesn't grant any supernatural abilities, but biological additions are fair game. Your body will always be able to sustain itself and move under its own power, regardless of what sort of creature you can turn into. You can decide to focus this on multiple people and turn yourself into the closest thing they'd all agree on. Both of these are very powerful perks. I strongly enjoy all of these perks. I'm very fond of a Perfect 10 for Anyone. I love subjective shapeshifting perks. These are probably my favorite kind of shapeshifting perks. They are so incredibly handy. And as you can see, this is a strong jump for Luciano, because this jump makes it so that Luciano gains a number of abilities that they previously did not have, from the ability to heal to this subjective shapeshifting power. It's all honestly just so sick, and I'm so glad that we're over here grabbing this. It's worth noting that I originally had plans to send Luciano to Mind Control University, and I very well might still do that, because this is such a strong no-sell Mind Control University jump. It is one of the best jumps that I've ever seen in preparation for that particular jump, and Luciano would both hate Mind Control University and would get such cool stuff from it. However, Mind Control University is a not safe for work jump, and while I will probably send Luciano to the World of Lewd Superheroes, World of Lewd Superheroes is both less fucked up than Mind Control University, and is also more in fitting with Luciano's character. And I don't really enjoy sending my jumpers to places that I know they're gonna hate unless I have like a very specific reason for that. That said, we still have 500 points effectively. We are going to be grabbing a few more perks from this page. This is fortunately the last page. I believe that we're only going to be grabbing 3 from here. And that means that we are going to be starting to use some of our tokens here, which is very important. We're going to grab Relationship Web, Telepathic Powers, and Mind Control Reflection, as well as Possession Begone, which actually is 4, so we're definitely still going to need to take a drawback, as incredible as that sounds. Relationship Web makes it so that we can see strings connecting people. Examining the strings will tell you the nature of this person's relationship towards them and their feelings. You can follow the web of strings to learn who feels what about whom, as well as assessing compatibility. Telepathic Powers grants you telepathy. Your ability works over a long distance. Mind Control Reflection passively reflects mind control attempts back to their user. It is worth noting that this differs from full immunity, because full immunity does not negatively affect someone who tried to use this kind of power on you. It only makes it so that you are not affected. This is a very nice ability that makes it so that anyone who tries to charm you suffers the effects of a charm themselves. And Possession Begone is extremely important, because we are going to be sending Luciano the Jumper to settings where possessions do in fact happen, and I very strongly like Possession Begone, so I'm very glad that we were able to grab all of these perks. I also thought about grabbing Ascension, and Ascension is so tempting, but it is not an ability that we are going to be grabbing. We are at some point going to be grabbing something that lets us go back into past jumps, at the very least, to get their abilities. However, I do want to note that that is going to be at some point in the significant future. I don't know precisely how far from now, but I do know that I don't plan to do that anytime soon. And that makes me bummed in this particular situation, but we still have at least one other token, I believe. Yes, we still have one more token that we can get before we need to go grab a drawback. So it is worth noting that one of the things we're going to be grabbing from here, and this is the thing we're going to be grabbing before we grab our first drawback, and before we go any further, the Art of Free Will is an extraordinarily significant item. The Art of Free Will is what is known as a perk granter. That is an informal term, but it is a perk/power granter that makes it so that you can share your abilities. I cannot strongly enough express how incredibly powerful perks like this are. And this is an item one. Item ones are not super common. However, they definitely do exist. I've seen a handful of them during my time doing jumps in the past. Normally these are perks that allow you to teach other people things like, oh, your magic systems, or share one of your alt forms. Luciano does have the ability to share their alt forms, but they do not have the ability to teach people their powers, at least before they had this. The Art of Free Will is a book item, and anyone who reads it, I'm going to assume that anyone who reads it who has your permission, even though that's not explicitly stated, can read it and learn to protect themselves from mind control, and can also gain other perks from this jump. However, while holding the book, the jumper can teach perks and abilities they know to other people. The learning rate is quite fast if it's something related to the book's subject, that's an important caveat. I'm assuming that it probably takes multiple days to do other stuff if it's not related to the book subject, but this is still an incredible item, especially now that Luciano is actually starting to grab real superpowers. This jump, for example, taught them telepathy, and they have the ability to heal people. I'm assuming that those things would be near instantaneous, just because those are related to the book's subjects, kind of. However, they also have things like super speed and distant attacks, and the ability to gain parkour-based abilities based off of the creatures that they defeat in battle, which at this point has definitely included a range of things like probably even vampires, because vampires do canonically exist over in the generic werewolf setting, and also slimes and other monsters that confer those kinds of abilities. So that is incredible. We are going to be skipping over the supplement and crossover mode for right now, just because we want to take a look at this section. I am going to go ahead and say that we are going to take the companion lockout, which feels like a little bit of a cheap thing, but we are going to be putting those points into the bank. And we are also going to be taking Do They Love Me or My Perks, which is in fact a real drawback that would actually affect Luciano. Luciano is a clever jumper, and they do want to gain points and powers, especially in this particular jump. They also want to start to put things into the bank because they don't want to run out of I believe the number was 2,500 points that they have in the bank after a couple of jumps. So they've gone ahead and put in 200, and then they've also gone ahead and grabbed Do They Love Me or My Perks, which is a drawback that makes it so that you'll now question your relationships and wonder if you have them because of who you are as a person or if it's because of your special abilities. This will require honest self-assessment to get past. I will say that this actually does have a meaningful effect on Luciano because this is a real drawback that would actually be directly relevant to them. Luciano is effectively, in every sense, post-human at this point. They are, for a while now, they've been post-human, but especially as of this jump, they have abilities that are fully beyond the realm of humanity, and I think that matters. So this drawback is actually going to affect them. They are also going to put 100 points of their points into the bank, in addition to grabbing the free will bombs. This is another very important item. This is a supply of explosives that give free will and intelligence to anyone within the blast radius. It's worth noting that there is a perk. There are perks that grant similar abilities to someone rather than purchasing it this way. However, Luciano could not grab those perks just because of the nature of their build, and even with their extra points, they didn't have enough to grab everything that they wanted. So this is something that combines a couple of perks. Very specifically, it combines kind of the effects of Ascension and Grant Free Will. It mostly focuses on Grant Free Will rather than Ascension, because Ascension gives the ability to speak human languages and any needed alterations and boosts to their intelligence that make it so that they could do that. But the free will bombs do not give them the ability to speak human languages. However, this is still very important if Luciano the Jumper visits a magical setting where a necromancer has an army of mindless undead or anything like that. There are a number of settings where that could be the case. That said, that is going to cover our build for this section of Luciano's 10 years in the world of Chronicle / generic totally not mind control. For the Chronicle jump, we are going to be focusing on the sections that actually matter to us, which is not going to be every section. That said, let's go ahead and hop on over there. I cannot believe how much cool stuff we got from this jump. I'm so excited to go and see where we are going with the other things here. Let's go. Hello, we are now over in Chronicle by Anon303. We have done a video on this previously, so we are going to be diving right into the action. We did a read through of this. It is entirely possible that I will link that video for anyone who wants to see it who has not seen it. It is worth noting that we are absolutely going to be grabbing the free powers perk. It is also worth noting that we are starting off with the 1,500 points. I will talk about the origin that we selected when it becomes relevant. I have lots of plans for this particular jump, but we are definitely going to be starting off with the free powers perk. This does grant Luciano the Jumper telekinesis, and that is really sick. We have not had telekinesis up until this point. And telekinesis is such an incredible power, especially because we did it in a way where we were able to grab telepathy and telekinesis in the same decade, and both of them are fiat backed. I am so thrilled by this development. We are going to go ahead and keep it moving. We are not going to be grabbing any of these first perks. We are going to be grabbing lifting yourself up, which makes it so that all supernatural abilities are uncapped. This is a very powerful perk. It is going to reduce our budget to 900. It is This is going to be another really big jump, and I keep trying to think of the right ways to articulate that. We have a lot of very interesting stuff already. We did not need these other perks, but lifting yourself up as it is an uncapper is very powerful. We are going to be taking the drop-in origin as our origin, but there are a lot of perks that we are going to be grabbing, and we are going to be making this pretty drawback heavy in order to do it. That said, some of the important drawbacks, a lot of their more interesting effects are at the very least partially mitigated by perks that we have here, and some of them are overcomable, which I think is very important. Drop-in is going to be our origin. I cannot believe that I made the same linguistic mistake twice in a row, because originally I was going to say drawback before I managed to correct myself a moment ago, and then I actually did say drawback. But drop-in is our origin. That is going to be our discounted origin. We are going to go all in on it. Magnetic personality, which makes it so that people who are like you are more likely to be able to build friendships and relationships with you, is a very important one. This is going to make it so that our jumper is able to become friends with the three protagonists. That is going to be significant. Secrecy insurance is going to cost us 100 points, which is going to reduce our total budget so far to 800. Secrecy insurance is going to make it so that people are far more likely to dismiss Luciano the Jumper's abilities, so long as said abilities do not make sense in a context, whether in a setting, whether it is because the setting is actually mundane, or because supernatural abilities are hidden / unknown to the public at large. This is also going to make it so that people will not harm Luciano the Jumper, at least not in a meaningful way, when their abilities are revealed, because their abilities are going to be revealed. I don't know how public it's going to become, at least not right now. I haven't done the script for the storytime video. That said, people will definitely know about Luciano the Jumper's abilities. It is worth noting that we are not going to be grabbing Still Human. Still Human is effectively nullified by a lot. It's not perfectly nullified, but it is. The need for it is mostly nullified by perks that we grabbed from generic Totally Not Mind Control, so we are going to skip it, which means that we are going to be grabbing Supernatural Savant, and we are still going to have 500 points. Supernatural Savant makes it is a training booster for supernatural abilities, in addition to being able to make it so that your abilities are a lot more creative and flexible than they appear at first glance. That said, boom, we have that. That is we are now down to 500 total points. This is a very cool ability. I love that for the first time we were able to go grab an origin and not grab everything from it. Although technically we also did that with last week's generic werewolf jump, where we only grabbed one origin based perk and it was the freebie. So it's still very cool. It's technically not the first time, but this is the first time that we are doing an origin that has a bunch of different very neat perks, and we were able to grab only some of them. So we are going to be moving on now. I do believe that we are going to be skipping this section for right now. We already have a Social Butterfly is filled with a lot of really fun stuff. We are going only to be grabbing, I think that we might actually grab nothing from this right now, but I do plan for us to come back and grab something. So we are going to be. I actually think that we will grab I Just Do My Best at Everything, which is a motivation booster. I very much like I Just Do My Best at Everything. Luciano does not have any motivation boosters, although I'm pretty sure that by now they've probably grabbed a couple of willpower boosters. I Just Do My Best at Everything is a really fun one that makes it so that it is super easy for you to do, to give 100% to everything you do at all times. I love this perk. I feel like it is so easy to underestimate it, but this makes it so that any training that you do, you're able to fully commit to it. Any studying you do, you fully commit to it. Just a really sick purchase. This is undiscounted, so it is going to knock us down to 100. We are going to be grabbing the initial perk from the Mostly Average Guy origin. So we are going to be grabbing Sidekick Stupidity. This makes it so that you are always able to have a clear and calm head. This, in addition to Luciano's immunity to negative status effects as a result, to some types of negative status effects as a result of their purchases from generic totally not mind control, is a very sick combination. This makes it so that it is extremely difficult to shake Luciano. I really like this combination. We are going to be grabbing other perks from this as well, but now we are reduced to 0, so we are going to go ahead and go over to the drawbacks. There are numerous drawbacks that I want us to take. Let's see. I am going to go ahead and grab Weird Quirk. I think that this is just going to make it so that Luciano talks about D&D a lot. I really like that. It's just a neat perk, or it's just a neat drawback. That is going to be 100 choice points. We are also going to be grabbing, I believe that we are going to be going ahead and grabbing Parental Prison, which is a rough drawback, but it is worth getting. Just because, first of all, it is the worst version of No Escape. I originally thought about getting No Escape, but I do want us to have a ton of different drawbacks. I'm also going to make sure that there's no limit here. Perfect. There is no limit here, so we are going to keep going. That is a total of 300 points right now. We are also going to be going ahead and getting, let's see, and protecting. I don't think that we are going to be going ahead and grabbing that one. I do think that we are going to go ahead and grab Lunchtime, which is an extremely important drawback, and that is going to bring us up to 900 total points. So let's talk about Lunchtime. In the original plot, as it was filmed and as it exists in isolation of Chronicle, there is no explanation given for why the kids have superpowers, aside from they went into a cave and found a crystal. The original plot was for a series of movies that, for a number of reasons, did not happen. And in the original plot / expanded universe, as envisioned by the movie's screenwriter, Max Landis, who sucks for reasons that you can Google, there was an actual reason for them to have powers. There is a creature known as a Mogu, a massive omnivorous geocetic organism that has the ability to give people superpowers. Kind of. They have the ability to give people telekinesis in exchange for their free will. These drones, people who gain superpowers, become drones of theirs and are effectively enslaved. As you can see, there's a reason why I focused on generic, totally not mind control first, because despite the fact that this drawback sucks and makes it so that you have to fight their drones. Luciano the Jumper has significant abilities that counter one of the largest advantages of the Mogus now. And it is worth noting that while a drawback like this will trump some of Luciano's stuff, so Luciano will not be able to start off this setting and immediately fight everything and win before things can get super powerful. Luciano can nullify easily the greatest abilities of the Mogu, which is the ability to turn people into a telekinetic, mind-controlled army simply by being near people. And Luciano will have their own highly advanced telekinesis themselves by the time people start to emerge. So this makes it, this incredible drawback is so incredibly powerful normally, is nullified by numerous of Luciano's more important recently gained abilities. I strongly love this. We are going to be taking these 900 points and we are going to be using them. The first thing we do not need to grab a strange cave, which is actually incredibly important because originally my plan was to grab a strange cave before I went through and read everything from generic Totally Not Mind Control. It was in fact reading through generic Totally Not Mind Control that convinced me that this was worth doing, because since we didn't need to read through generic Totally Not, since we read through that and we were able to grab an item that lets us grant other people our perks, we do not need a strange cave, and I am such a big fan of that. Because that is an expensive item and there's no way to get a discount on it. We are going to be grabbing a Helpful Hand, which is 400 points. A Helpful Hand is one of the ultimate You're a Good Homie perks, especially if your jumper is in fact a good homie who actually cares about their friends, which Luciano does. That said, this is an incredibly significant perk which will nullify one of the central conflicts of the actual movie events of Chronicle, the movie events that happened on film that people can watch for a number of reasons. This coupled with the ability to heal people that Luciano got from a passive renewal will completely nullify numerous things from the original plot, which is going to be significant in the events of the movie moving forward. So just keep that in mind. We still have 500 points left because we were able to grab a total of 900. So let's go ahead and see what else we can get from here. I'm sad we cannot get the social butterfly perks that I actually really wanted us to get. That said, we are going to keep moving forward. We are going to be going ahead and grabbing, with great power comes great leisure, which is a perk that makes it so that you don't need to focus on your powers in order for them to work. I really like this. You can even be asleep while your powers are still working if you wanted, which means that Luciano would be able to fly, fall asleep, and keep flying. I just really like that. I think it's really cool. And that we are going to go ahead and put 100 points, because I believe that we still have 100 points into the bank, which is going to make it so that we have put in 400 points. Those 400 points are going to become 800 points because of the nature of our particular version of the bank. And those 800 points are then going to become even more points because of interest, but we are going to leave that there for right now. That said, I think it is so incredibly sick that we were able to go through and grab such radical powers. Luciano's telekinesis will easily become on par with Andrew's and Matt's at the end of the first movie, probably even faster than theirs will, especially because Luciano has a number of other perks, including Supernatural Savant, which I assume gives him Andrew's remarkable learning speed when it comes to telekinesis. Still, just incredible abilities. I am so happy that we were able to come here and do this. And I think that this build is actually going to matter in the long term even more than generic werewolves did. This particular build, the combined build, is going to, among other things, confer our adventuring lad telepathy and telekinesis, as well as uncapped abilities to train telepathy and telekinesis, and a number of other really sick abilities. I Damn, what super sick powers we have gained as a result of this. The confrontation with the Mogu, which would normally be an incredibly significant and difficult thing, and is still going to be not easy, is going to be a lot less difficult because of things like the free will bombs, which Luciano can share with their homies, as well as the granting people free will abilities that Luciano can share with their homies, and the ability to be immune to mind control, which is all just so sick. I do have plans for Luciano to share at least some of those abilities with Andrew, Steve, and Matt, and it is worth noting that the plot events of this setting are going to be radically altered by Luciano's homie abilities, which I think is so incredibly good. I'm so happy that Luciano has the abilities needed to actually change how this setting plays out, because honestly, the events of the first movie are really tragic. It is really sad that so many bad things happen because of only a handful of characters, and the characters who are the causes of the central conflicts are, at least in some cases, not even members of the trio. So it is very nice that Luciano plans to save all three characters, and Luciano actually would not have meta knowledge. I'm going to say, despite the fact that I've known about Chronicle for many years and that I've known about jump chains, that Luciano the jumper does not know about jump chains, or at least they didn't before they started their setting, or before they started their adventure. And I think that that is a significant difference between Luciano the Jumper and myself, and that is going to matter. I'm also going to say that Luciano the Jumper was very into things like D&D and Pathfinder, but this made it so that they were not interested in some other things. I've known about Chronicle since long before I knew about its jump chain. I did not hear about it for the first time through a jump chain. I heard about it because I was very much into choose your own adventures, and some people thought that one choose your own adventure was a little bit like Chronicle, and that made me interested enough that I wanted to go and see it. And it was not a jump chain, it was not a jump dock or anything like that. It was an old choose your own adventure about psychic abilities. So I thought that that was worth going and checking out. I saw the movie, I really liked it. And because of that, my intro to Chronicle is going to be different from Luciano's. But because of Luciano's, some of their perks, because of some of Luciano's perks, especially perks from generic Totally Not Mind Control, they will be able to immediately realize that Andrew is having difficulties at home. And because of a helpful hand, they will immediately befriend Andrew and make it so that Andrew has solace and a community, which is funny because I decided to make Luciano's own home life also really shitty. So this is going to be a bad jump for Luciano in a lot of different ways, but it's going to be worth it for both the stuff that they gain and the fact that they are able to make a setting a lot better. Luciano the Jumper starting off their home life a little bit rough is also going to make them motivated to get out, which is something that they're going to do. It is unfortunate that they are going to have to continue to deal with not great stuff. Because of this particular section of this drawback. This effectively means that it is going to be it's going to suck for the total 10 years that you are here. It is going to follow you, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with persistent drawbacks that you can't super easily overcome. Part of the reason I decided this over No Escape is that the notes at the end of this jump actually stipulates that you can deal with the drawbacks of a certain level are fixable. However, beyond that certain level, which is 100 choice points, the higher level drawbacks will persistently affect you in some capacity throughout the entire jump. So I decided that it was worth making it rough for Luciano for this jump, especially because Luciano is at this point a pretty significantly powerful jumper. We Luciano has advanced past the baby stages of jumperdom at this point. They're not extremely powerful in any capacity. If they go to Marvel or something, unless they went to like the MCU, they would absolutely still get stomped by any decently powerful native. However, they are quickly approaching. So that is something that is worth considering. We are in fact going to be going to higher level and more dangerous settings in the future. I do plan to gradually increase the overall power level, but I thought that it was worth making things rough for this jump just because this particular setting is one, not a wildly dangerous setting on its own, but is also a setting that is decently dangerous. As always, Luciano is going to be going with Keep Going. But I'm so excited to think about the conflict between Luciano and the homies and the Mogu. Luciano is not going to be grabbing any companions from this jump, but it is worth noting, as I have told other people, that there are in fact plans for Luciano to eventually go and deal with creatures. I said creatures. Luciano does have plans to eventually grab companions. Eventually. That said, this is not the jump for that, and it's also worth noting, I have been doing this throughout the entirety of the times that Luciano has been leaving settings and going to non-continuous settings, but effectively, if it is a jump that is a one and done like Chronicle and generic totally not mind control, we are not freezing the setting at the end of Luciano's time here, which is the normal default ruling. Normally, when you finish your time in a jump, the setting freezes until you come back in some capacity, whether it is a perk such as there are a handful of jumps that let you do vacation time in other jumps that you visited in the past. Normally, vacation time in that kind of context only applies to the jump that you are just visiting from, but sometimes that is not the case. Normally, when you leave a jump, it freezes until you either fail or you get your spark. That is not the case for Luciano, aside from in times when they are visiting one continuous setting. And by one continuous setting, I mean a setting where you go from one jump to another, and it is a jump and then a sequel jump. For example, if Luciano goes to High School Musical, which is part of my plan eventually, High School Musical being a jump that I have made and that I'm the author of, and then going to High School Musical 2, which will probably happen at some point in the future as well, that would be one continuous setting. So they go from West High, I believe is the name, but it might be East High. And then they go from there to West/East High again in the sequel. That setting would not freeze unless it is like that setting would not freeze. That said, Luciano would have the option to go back in time in that particular case, because those are two jumps that are intended to be done either one or after the other, or there is a perk in play that makes it so that you can go back in time and follow up on your story immediately. There is a perk in High School Musical 2 / there will be, which allows you to do something like that, which will be a free perk. I would know because I am the author of High School Musical 2. That is in fact something that people can find online, but right now it's a work in progress. I'm hoping to finish it before November 5th, which is probably, I believe, this coming Saturday or something. It's something like that. It's either this coming Saturday or this coming Sunday. That said, we are going to go ahead, end the video here. I'm so excited to go and do the storytime video for this particular jump, because I know the storytime video for this particular jump is going to be sick. I do not know if we are going to cover the Mogu fights. We probably will cover the Mogu fights, or at the very least one of the Mogu encounters. The storytime videos are not intended to be super long. This coming storytime video will not feature any special documents or anything. I just wanted to introduce the banking supplements in last week's which was the reason why last week's video had the banking supplement and was the special length of time that it was, as opposed to being probably a shorter video. That said, let's go ahead and peace on out. I cannot wait to talk to you guys again later. Bye-bye.